joys of a narrow lane. I'm a bit warm. In this video I thought we'd better go for a drive. First drive in Felicity, the Ford Fiesta 1.1 Popular Plus Mark II. It's a warm day. I'm not complaining. Let me just set the aircon to non-existent. How's my hair, everyone? Is it alright? Not sticking up? Oh, listen to that lovely little 1.1 engine, everyone. Let's just not choke back. Remember those days with a choke? Love it. This is the first drive then, everyone, of Felicity, the Ford Fiesta Mark II 1.1 Popular Plus. Anyone that knows their Fiestas or Fords in general, how good are their heaters in a Ford? Let's turn that down. Wow. My MG Metro, I was going to say midget. My MG Metro has got a heater. It's a 2-speed fan. When you switch it on, it kind of does this, whereas this is proper sort of Chernobyl grade heat. Fantastic. So how is Felicity running? Well, since the MOT, which she passed with no advisories, of course, still under 9,000 miles at the minute at the end of the day, although to be honest, during this video it's going to go over the 9. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, passed the MOT test. I'll put a bit of inset footage in again of the underside of the car. The guy that I take it to, Ford's garage in a little village called Lullington, I think it is. Well known throughout the area. He's just a really great guy that's obviously worked on cars, well, forever. He's quite a good age, bless him. He's even older than me. But he's just the chap that you need to work on cars like these. I know these cars are easy to work on, and if you're watching the video now and you're looking at the screen going, well, why don't you do all the work yourself? I know I should, and maybe I need people to keep telling me that in the comments, and one day I'll start doing a little bit more than just washing and polishing them, which is effectively what I do. But as people have noticed, kindly noticed, what I do, and that's great English, but I'm a brummie. What I do is I look after them. I take the cars that I own to specialists. They get pampered. Listen to this road surface, terrible, isn't it? They get absolutely pampered. I invest money in them, whether I'm going to get that money back or not, because at the end of the day I love keeping pieces of history on the road. I'm sure you understand. Do you know the gearbox in this car? It's a 4-speed box because of course it's just a Popular Plus. It's lovely. It's so simple. No wonder these were school cars in the 80s. They're so easy to drive. They're talking of school cars. If you haven't seen the reveal video for this car, I mentioned that one of the key reasons for buying it was because, well, it was a B-Reg Ford Fiesta Mark II 1.1 Popular Plus. That was the very first car that I drove. It was a school car. It was a light blue colour. I'll put an image on screen now of what I think the car would have looked like. So that was the first touch point, the first time that I actually sat in the driver's seat of a car to drive it. I remember the day well. In fact, as I'm having quite the nostalgia trip with my cars, everyone, and there's reasons, at least for most of them, why I own them, and if you've been following the channel for a while, well, you should know those reasons already. I'm not going to list them today, but I'm having quite a nostalgia trip to the point where my plan is I'm going to take this Fiesta Mark II 1.1 Popular Plus. I'm going to stop that in a minute. I'm going to take this Fiesta to a specific street, a specific road in Birmingham, and I'm going to park it up roughly, to the best of my aging brain can remember, roughly where the car pulled up when the instructor drove it to that location, and then basically got into the passenger seat and and let me get in the driver's seat, and I'm going to take some photos, and I'll probably do a little video of it as well, because again, it's just going to take me right back to sort of late 1980s, late 1986. It was a fantastic day. I obviously gelled with the car straight away, because I remember the instructor saying, now bear in mind, I think the waiting times for the driving tests were quite long even back then. They're probably even longer now, of course. And there was no theory test, mind you, for me to do. But he said to me at the end of the first lesson, I would suggest that you book your place for your test, because I think you're only going to need a small number of lessons, which was really nice to hear. I think I had about 8 lessons in all. I just love driving a car, but as I said, you can see why these cars were school cars, can't you? Because they're just so basic, so simple, and I love it for it. This is a car, remember, that's got no electronics, got no touchscreen, as I let the van out. It's got no electronics, no touchscreen, no OBD port. It's just me, the car, and a small number of warning lights. In fact, the only warning lights I've got on this car is one for fuel, one for oil, one for engine temperature, one for main beam, one for side lights, one for handbrake. I guess that probably also comes on if the fluid level drops, I can't remember. Obviously the indicators left and right, and the battery if it's not charging, of course, and that is it. Simple motoring. I don't even have a radio. Why would I want a radio in this car? A, it was never fitted at standard, so why would I change its originality? I'm not about to do that, am I? And B, I'm enjoying listening to that little 1.1 engine. I think it's fantastic, and it pulls really well. Obviously 50 horsepower, you say 50 horsepower today, and of course there aren't many cars that are built today that's got 50 horsepower, but then you have to remember this car only weighs what? It's probably less than 800 kilos. I'll put the weight on screen now. So there's not a lot for that little 1.1 engine with its 50 horses to pull, is there? It's a lively little thing. Makes me realise that the XR2 must be fun. If anyone watching this video has got a Mark II or Mark 1 XR2, let me know in the comments what you think of it. I bet that's fun too. They handle really well, and although the roads in the UK at the moment are absolutely shocking, so nice to see all that money that we spend on road tax. The road tax for this car, by the way, for 12 months is £200 currently a year, but it's going to be MOT and tax exempt in probably 2 to 3 years time. I'm going to do a video about that because it's actually slightly more complicated. It's not when the car gets to exactly 40 years, but anyway, it will be tax and MOT exempt relatively soon, so of course I will no longer be paying that £200. But it's nice to know that while I'm paying it, and the tax on all my other cars that need it, apart from the Imp, that's already tax and MOT exempt, it's nice to know that I'm helping to fund these shocking roads. I have a little bird tweeting somewhere in the dash, but you know, 38 years old, we'll forgive it. I love it. Keep fit windows. I love this steering wheel. Little 2-spoke steering wheel. Actually, it's quite a big 2-spoke steering wheel. I love the fact that you don't even get a glove box, you just get a shelf. I guess the glove box was on the L or upwards maybe. Keep fit windows. No dipping rear view mirror, but it does have, because it's a Pop Plus, I think I've said that already in the video everyone, because it's a Pop Plus, it does have a door mirror on the passenger side. It has a rear wash wipe. Ooh. And the rear glass is heated as well. I think that's quite posh, don't you? I remember the Mark 1s, I love the Mark 1 Fiestas, I just can't afford one. I really can't. I think I'd have to sell a car, and I'm not prepared to sell anything at the moment, but I do love the Mark 1 Fiestas. I've got some fond memories of a good friend having a couple of Mark 1 Fiestas as company cars. I say he had a couple because they were just 957cc Poplars, real base spec. I think it had rubber on the floor rather than carpet, and of course it had no passenger side mirror. I guess it didn't have any heated rear glass and certainly no rear wash wipe. but that poor 957cc lived a hard life as a company car. And at the time, I don't know, I've always loved cars, but I think I was a bit younger, a bit silly. I was just laughing at how it was being driven. Of course, I've grown up a bit now, sort of, but it lived a hard life. I think it felt like you were in an XR2 when you would drive it. So I'm sad enough, I'm that sad I can even remember the number plates of both cars, albeit the second one was easy to remember, as you'll hear in a sec. It was NUY 531Y, go and check it. Ford Fiesta Poplar. And then I think he killed it, so he started to drive NUY 532Y. But yeah, fond memories of old Fiestas. So of course, when I passed my test in this school car, the B-Reg Fiesta 1.1, you know the school. When I passed my test, it took a few weeks to find my first car. I remember having a good look around, and maybe it would have been tempting to have bought a Ford Fiesta, or as I love Austin Rover product, maybe it would have been obvious to bought a Metro, but that wasn't my first car, although I did have my fair share of Metros after my first car. Everyone, just slow it down for some horses. Well, what I did buy, and it's the only grainy picture I've put on screen now, is a S-Reg VON 852S 1.6S Chrysler Sunbeam. It was £300 for a reason. One wing was a different colour and had been hand sprayed. Shocking colour. I had to hammerite the sills and the bottom of the doors. You'd open the driver's door and it would drop. I think the same happened on the passenger side, to be fair. So you kind of, when you got in, you'd kind of pull the handle, but you'd lift it in a sort of upright position to get it to shut. The sunroof was aftermarket, but fitted into a vinyl roof nonetheless. A vinyl roof that was no doubt hiding rust. And that pop-up sunroof, well, that had a leak as well, because, well, I used to work in the automotive glazing trade, and I never did like the fact of customers coming in and basically asking you to cut a hole in the roof of a car that weren't leaking until you cut that hole. I'm sure it was just a rubber seal around the glass, but anyway, it never got sorted because I was young and I was too busy driving and having fun. So, as far as Ford ownership's concerned, I've not owned many Fords at all. The first Ford I bought was the one that's now on screen, of course. It was a lovely car, mind you. Ford Mondeo 2.5 V6 Gear X with that Duratec engine, is it, I think? What an engine. What it might have lacked slightly in 0 to 60 times, it certainly made up for on that sort of wave of V6 goodness. You could be doing some really good speeds and you wouldn't even notice. Love that car. And then, almost in preparation for having kids, but ironically we didn't have kids at the time, the only other two Fords I had was both C-Maxes. Quite a weird choice considering at that point in time we didn't have kids, but anyway, they're the only Fords I've owned. So this Ford Fiesta is only the fourth car that I've ever owned that's a Ford, and I love it. Now, I love to hear comments. I can hear comments, did you know? I'd love to read comments underneath the videos. Please leave your comments of the Fords that you've owned, maybe the Ford that you do own, preferably a classic one. What is it? Do you like it? How long have you owned it? Would you ever sell it? As I said in the reveal video, this car will never be for sale because it's basically a previous one owner car. Now, of course, I'm going to keep saying one owner car because, like a true car salesman that maybe I should have been in my life, it's not really a one owner car, is it? It's a two previous owner car. But that's only because Wards of Kettering, the Ford main dealer, they registered it themselves on the 28th of Feb, I think it was. And then the only owner to buy this car before me purchased it 32 days later on the 1st of April. That's why I call it a one owner car, because effectively it was. And the miles was next to zero on it when the lady bought it, so in my opinion it's one owner. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I've now added to the owners, and I'm adding slightly to the miles. I said I'd mention the miles. The problem with buying a car with such low miles is I don't want to own garage queens that never go out on the road. A car, I'm sure most of you watching this will agree, a car should be driven. They are no good sitting stationary, even in a dry garage. It does them no good at all. Okay, it's out of the weather, so there's going to be no water ingress. There's no UV damage. There's no water ingress, there's no UV damage. But they need to be driven, they need to be run, they need to be got up to temperature. Get rid of all that condensation that will have been built up since the last time you drove it. I'm sure you agree. But the problem is, of course, this car was, I say was, because as we go over some more bumps, it's 9,003 miles now on the clock. This was a sub 9,000 mile car, and I keep saying to friends and family, oh, here we go. I've got to reverse now. Joys of a narrow lane. Do that again. What was we saying? Yeah, I've been saying to friends, there's a sort of subconscious issue that I've got with this car, because it was under 9,000 miles, but more importantly, therefore, it's obviously under 10,000 miles. And when that extra digit starts to turn, or turns even, because it gets to 10,000 miles, there'll be a slight disappointment. And I know that's going to probably get to a couple of people, but I'm sorry, but it is going to annoy me a little, because it's nice that it hasn't got that fifth digit. It's nice that it's under 10,000 miles, but this car's got to be driven. And at the end of the day, I like saying this, at the end of the day, it's going to go to classic car shows, and it's going to be driven on days like today. So at the end, it's going to get over 10,000 miles, so I'm going to have to just live with it and be satisfied that the car is still very low miles and is in great bodywork and hopefully mechanical condition. At least my local specialist, my local garage, thinks it's in good mechanical condition. It's just going to get driven, it's going to get used, because it needs to be driven and it needs to be used. I think that'll do for this video, everyone. What do you reckon? Do you agree with what I've said? Should classic cars be used, or should there be garage queens in the hope that they're going to make the owner even more money? I think I know what most of you are going to say, and you know my view on that. I am absolutely enjoying driving Felicity along the country lanes of Derbyshire. It's an absolute treat. Like my MG Metro took me back to 1990, this car has definitely taken me back to sort of mid 1986, right up till December 86 when I passed my test. That would have been the last time that I've ever driven a Ford Fiesta, and the last time I was ever in a Mark II Ford Fiesta. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate it, particularly if you got to the end. If you enjoyed the update, please consider hitting the thumbs up button, because it really does help build the channel and it shows your support. If you're not subscribed, there's going to be a link somewhere over this side of the video. It's always free to subscribe to the channel. It is but a YouTube channel, so you don't pay to subscribe. Please click that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, because again, it really does help build the channel and I sincerely appreciate it. Enjoy whatever it is you're driving, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.